The words ritual and ceremony are so widely used that they mean many, many things to different people. Generally, both words refer to processes that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Some of these processes are repetitive, we'll call them rituals, and others may be performed only on special occasions, and we'll call those ceremonies. So we want to talk today a little bit about how you can separate some of the day-to-day rituals that we have here and how we can learn to really celebrate the extraordinary tasks and feats and accomplishments that every one of us and all the students make actually every day here. We all perform rituals in our everyday behavior. If you think about a typical day in your own personal routine, what activities do you repeat religiously every single day? Do you get up and brush your teeth before you wash your face, or is it vice versa? What about your morning coffee and what you eat? Driving to work or going to the grocery store? What's going on in your mind when you engage in these activities? Most people perform these activities automatically with actually very little consciousness. And how many times have you found yourself thinking about something completely different while you are in the midst of these personal rituals? We call it daydreaming. We're kind of going on autopilot. These activities have some of the same flavor of ritual or ceremony in that we temporarily suspend our processing of data and get into a rhythm that we can do things that we seldomly even think about. This is a simple example of how we separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. The steps of rituals repeated every day are ordinary experiences. But our thoughts, daydreams, and associations, which occur at the same time, but are unrelated to the ordinary steps of the ritual activity, are actually those things that we want to learn to celebrate, and those are the extraordinary tasks and feats and things that people accomplish from week to week. Even a standard morning coffee break is a time to suspend ourselves from the ordinary processes of our day. You can come to this ordinary daily ritual with awareness of its ordinary potential and let your mind wander for a few minutes, unraveled really by things that are going on around you. You taste the coffee, you take the time hopefully to smell the coffee, and you try to get yourself settled in the moment. We use the word ceremonies to refer to activities that take place only on special occasions and that are consciously designed to produce beneficial effects. By rituals, we mean habits we do automatically and without the conscious design and the conscious power of ceremony. So if you can learn to, in your daily life here, really separate between what's happening with everyone every day, and if you look at how many times we have a morning gathering every morning, right? 365 days a year. We can equate that a lot of times to our personal teeth brushing every morning. And if you look at it from a student's perspective of living here in our little community day after day after day, that morning gathering also becomes a daily ritual. It's a routine. The afternoon gatherings, the evening gatherings are all something that happen no matter what, with a lot of the same format. So if you look at yourself as you're working here and you're helping people and you're trying to be conscious of what they need, just think of how many of the students and how many of ourselves go on autopilot for these meetings, day after day after day. And I'm sure that you can watch the faces of the people in the back of the room, and some people are sleeping and a few people are up and excited about the day. But for the most part, it's one of those things we do. We want to do it. We want to continue doing it. But ceremony, and particularly community circle once a week, is something that we want to have some real wow factor. So we want people to be able to clearly distinguish this is a morning gathering, and this is a community circle, and wow, what a difference. So there's that clean, clear distinction. We need to gather more often in ceremonial time and space because ceremonies provide the opportunity to reframe, to reinvent, and to tell the stories that help us make sense in our own lives. It's through the telling and sharing of stories that we share our most fundamental truths from one heart to the next. Telling stories in ceremonies helps us to listen better and provide a lens through which we can see things in a new light. They provide the structure by which we can lift our hearts from self-doubt. People know that, and you've seen that anytime we've done something with ceremony to give someone a real affirmation. It's an uplifting experience for them personally. They provide access into the world of faith and into the world of the human spirit. Ceremonies can help provide the roadmaps to restore our dreams, to express our visions, and to actually really give us hope. They provide us with the time to experience awe, which is a state that helps remind us that we are smaller and that the universe is much larger. The awe factor helps us to find the faith to move forward. And in fact, much of it's been gained through leaps of faith that could not have been achieved by certainty or by planning. People in every religion and every culture have used ceremonies and rituals to help make sense out of experiences in their own lives and to teach ethical ways of breathing new meaning into those lives. In order to touch and to be touched in healing ways, you must connect to a belief in something bigger than yourself. Whatever that belief is, if it's God, if it's astrology, if it's old growth and big trees, or family and homeland, during ceremonial time, you experience your life as an unfolding drama whose meaning is broader than any day-to-day concern. Ceremony is a time to seek guidance, to share in community, to look within, to touch people, to practice dreams and imagination. Ceremony can help provide a way to touch and get in touch with courage and with inspiration in order to find true healing for yourself. So I want to talk about the huge importance of community circle and the act that we do here every week. This is usually an hour-long program. And if you were to look at, we always say that Amity is not a faith-based program. We don't have anything that resembles church. It's very non-denominational. We've always tried to mix races, cultures, and certainly religions. So if you looked at anything that even closely resembled church, if you look at community circle in that way, and anyone who has been a part of organized religion, you'll remember those days in Sunday school and church, where it was all very organized. The person, the pastor, the preacher, the priest, whoever it was who was running the hour-long program was very prepared, with some enlightening things to say. There was some music, and there kind of had a nice flow to it, if you remember that. It was all very orchestrated. It was not a thing where, in some churches they do have a time when people can come up and they can talk and speak, and it's pretty interactive, but for the most part, kind of traditional religion was very organized. So if you take that community circle and look at that hour, that's really what we want to do. Where it's planned by us. There are some planned ceremonies that make some sense. So I want to kind of start this morning for the first phase here and talk a little bit about environment. So if you are, whether you're running a community gathering or community circle, or if you're participating, it's very important that everyone here, the minute you walk into, if it's the pavilion or Bear Hall, wherever it may be, that you notice the environment. And that's on all of us, to create a place again that has a different feel. I think people always know that I really don't like doing community circle in Bear Hall. And I really don't like doing it because people spend so much time in there in other meetings that you're doing ceremonies and you're kind of doing some nice things for people, and you look out at everybody and they've got this glazed over, I'm brushing my teeth look. So we want people to have, again, that kind of awe and wow factor. So that's why it's so important, when the weather permits, that we do this outside. So you look at the environment. Now, you're battling with a few things, and again, I'm looking at this from a production standpoint because I think it is a production that we do every week that makes a huge impression on the students who are here. So you've got to look at it from that factor, is that there's the elements of the setting. Are there water bottles on the ground in the pavilion? Is there trash? Is everybody present? So I'm going to ask everybody here to make sure that when you come to those gatherings that you really do, before you take your seat, that you take a head count, who's missing, what's going on, oh, let me pick up this piece of trash and let me organize the room. And then if you look at, too, I'm always telling people, no, you need to stand up, or if you guys could spread out. You want to remember, and this is very difficult to do when you're doing ceremonies, you want to remember, Dwight, come here for a second, because if I'm doing something with Dwight and I'm honoring Dwight, I want to make a connection with Dwight. So I want to, I want to say, good job, Dwight. This is, really cool, and we want to have some eye contact. But it's so important, even in a room like this, and particularly in the pavilion where we're outside, I have to have my voice carry, because I'm doing two things. I'm talking to Dwight, but I want everybody else to be able to hear this. And I don't know about you guys, but I know when I've sat in the back of the pavilion, I can sit through an entire community circle and not hear a word. So I don't really know what's going on. You're not really paying much attention, and you really don't get the full value. So it's really important to think about how clearly you're speaking, how loudly you're speaking, and make sure if you have groups of people that somebody's at least standing up on the podium in the pavilion, or if you're in a room like this, make sure that the circle doesn't encompass them, because you can't get your voices to carry. So maybe you want to line people up in a half circle. You want to really look at, again, the orchestration of that you want to get your point across to someone, but you also want everybody else to be able to hear it. It's really, really important. I want to talk a little bit, one of our jobs here also is a very big job, is to provide grace for people. And how do we do that? And how do we teach grace? And I'll tell you, it was a long, painstaking process, even for me personally. And I know when I was cleaning up, I was incredibly awkward. I had no communication skills, and I had no sense of grace. And I started watching other people and watching how other women carried themselves, and kind of like, wow, how does she do that? Or wow, look how she walks. She sits. And I was kind of clunky and always self-conscious and tripping over stuff and always being kind of goofy. And I think it's so important for all of us to be able to teach that grace. We're all learning it, teach it. And part of that comes from us. So I know everybody gets uncomfortable. I get uncomfortable getting up in front of people. I have Naya to thank for years of, I'd be in the back and she'd say, oh, Robin, she always picked me. I'd be in the back going, don't do that to me. Particularly because I was extremely uncomfortable in front of crowds and people. And so that has helped me. So in ways that have really boosted my self-confidence. So if you look at everyone here as students, also struggling with a lot of self-confidence issues, and so are we personally. So we want to make sure that we're helping people do that. So consequently, I'm going to ask people to start practicing, when you're up in front of people, some real simple things. I know we get unconscious and we're talking while we're walking, and if I'm coming up, I'm way over here and I'm kind of running up and I'm talking the whole time, and then I walk and talk and really move around. And I want people to practice, and this is hard. Practice not speaking until you get to the front of the room. Practice standing really still for just a minute. Get your bearings, both on your feet. Take a breath, and then good afternoon. So people will start to get, okay, you can feel the energy drop. Okay, people will connect and really start listening. So practice that a lot, and help people that you are either giving an affirmation for or giving a ceremony for, help them also do that. When you're doing ceremonies for people, you want to think about the person, and you really want to think about the people who were key are instrumental in their experience here. Okay, who are those people? Sometimes maybe it's only one person. This guy made one friend, but it was a huge deal for him. And that's kind of the relationships. It's really okay to just have that one person be involved in the ceremony. I want to get away from having everybody in the lodge feel like they have to say something. We run into situations where somebody says something to you and you've never even really spoke to them, and all of a sudden they're doing this big deal about, oh, you know, and the person's, you can tell by the look on the person's face, like, oh, I can't believe you're saying this to me. I've never even talked to you. You know, it's weird. People. So let's really, really keep it to what are the relationships, and let's do that. So that hour is not free time for people to get up and say things, and I need some help in the culture of the community here to have that kind of stop. This is our meeting, kind of our show for that hour, and we want it to be really cool. If people want to say things to people, by all means, I think it would mean more to the person if they came up to them when they kind of didn't have to and it wasn't orchestrated, and said something to them one-to-one that was really heartfelt. You know, I think that would make a much bigger difference. Always find something to read or contribute that's really important, that, you know, that makes some sense for the person. I would like to see people give what you read to the person, you know, because a lot of times you don't hear it, and I know people have said and done things to me that, you know, in the moment you really didn't get. And I've saved those, and I remember that, and I read it and went, wow, that is really neat. You can take those and roll them up, and with a simple piece of ribbon, it's a really neat thing to hand somebody, you know, so they can take a look at it later and kind of remember that. I know you've all had the experience of being affirmed in one way or another and had a really cool ceremony, and you have to remember how good that made you feel and how special it made you feel. And we're in the business of making people feel good and making people feel special. So I'm going to ask that everybody really think from week to week, who's in your circle, who have you been working with, what's going on with them, who had a birthday, who had the passing of someone in their family, and with a handful of people, if you have 10 people, guaranteed once a week, there's something that is notable for every single person there. All right, and I'm going to ask people to do that. We can't be in a community of this many people where there's absolutely nothing going on for anybody. Okay? So I want you to think about ceremonies. I want you to think about movement. I want you to think about how you're going to have someone come up, where you want them to stand, how you want it to look. When you have other people come up and say something, what do you want that to do? It's really good to even talk to the people that you're going to be bringing up and involving in a ceremony before you do it. Kind of say, hey, I need a hand. Here's what we're going to do. We're doing something for Joey. And, you know, he's had a really tough time, and his mother died a year ago. And you know, I'd like you to read this, if you would, you know, or I'd like you to say a few things, or I know you struggle because I know your mother died a couple of years ago, and perhaps I could call on you to say a few things about that. So I want people to really, you know, use your heads and think that through. Really think about language. I know that for the last little while in Community Circle, we've been talking about people are graduating. We're going, I hear from students, my parents are coming, I'm graduating today. I know I hear it from everybody, and the students say, yeah, you know, it's graduation. Language is so incredibly important because graduation means that you have really completed something and you're kind of finished, you know, and on to the next event. I want to change that language to their moving into continuance, or they're transitioning, or however we can do this, so it doesn't have such a final, this is a graduation, here's your certificate, thanks for being here for 7 months, and away they go. Again, we want to look at the wow factor and the awe factor. It is no small feat, as all of you know, to stay here 90 days and certainly none for 7 months or longer. That is a huge commitment. It's a big chunk out of someone's life. And I think that those particular ceremonies need to be unbelievably special. So I want to talk about some things that don't cost very much, $1, $2. If people really don't have it, we can petty cash and we can go do. But there are scores of things that we can use here every week to give someone something that is heartfelt, that they will remember for the rest of their lives. But it's not okay to send somebody out of here after they've kept their word, worked really hard, done what they needed to do, done this huge transformation, to just kind of, hey, everybody in the group stands up and they all make them some wishes, some of them okay and some of them kind of goofy, and then away they go. They need to have something to take with them that they can remember and they can see. For a few dollars, you can get a huge bag of river rocks. Some of them, they have different colored ones, or they have kind of natural colored ones. They're really nice, they're really smooth. You could take a look at just a simple gesture of having the person, and maybe one other person, and saying some things really nice to this person who's leaving, and take this stone and pass it. And at every single person who's in the pavilion, hold that stone, give them some really good wishes, pass it all the way around and back to the person, and just a simple thing. But I'll guarantee you they'll keep this stone. They'll remember it for the rest of their lives. For, again, I have a gazillion of these. For a couple more bucks, you can get a huge packet of these really cool little bags. They're really cool, simple little bag. Stone goes in the bag, tied up, and they've got, it's a beautiful little gift to send somebody off with. We did this for a long time. We did wishing sticks. Mine's been kind of crumpled up. But you can take a simple piece of wood from any tree here and simple ribbon that was 50 cents, great big roll of it that I keep. I keep this on hand in my office 24/7, all the time. It's 50 cents, no big deal. It's even cheaper after Christmas. You can buy a bunch of it. And again, if people don't have, just come and talk to me, and it's really great. We can give you a few bucks. Everybody should start a little ceremony basket. You can take a little bag or a little basket. This is all I have, but I have a bunch of stuff in here, and in a pinch, I can run in and kind of round up a bunch of things. A simple stick. These were just wishes. So you can have maybe 4 or 5 people, or however many you want that makes sense. You could pass it around the pavilion and give everyone a piece of ribbon. And without saying anybody, people can give quiet wishes and tie the ribbon on the stick. And give this, this one looks horrible because it's been in a bag, but when they're done, they're really cool. So you have a wishing stick that you can hand them with well wishes from everyone here, or people that they really connected with, or however it is. It can be a quiet wish, or we could do a thing where, Robert, if you come up, you could actually come up, and I'm leaving, and you could actually do a wish, and I can hold it and you can tie it on while you're talking, and you can give a wish. So you can bring somebody up and do it that way. Simple strips of paper that you can do, and you can pass these out. You could pass them out in the pavilion. This is just old green paper. We have mountains of this. A cutting board, up front. People can write wishes. Okay, you could pass it to the entire community and give everybody a strip and have everybody write a wish. Now with these wishes, you can do all kinds of things. You can put wishes in your little bag, maybe just the group does it, and you fold them up really small and you put them in this bag, and there's a bag of wishes, which is really cool, that they'll hang on to, that will last for a long time. You can always do candles. We have 7-day candles, they're $1, okay, up at Safeway again. And pass the candle around to everyone who's there, and then give it to them as a gift. I have seen people do some really cool things with stones from here. A larger stone. You can't give somebody a great big rock, but if you get a larger stone. We have paint and supplies in the kids' art room and around. You can have people sign on the rock and give people the stone, and perhaps it's the demonstrator and the people in the circle. Okay. You can take people and with their messages, have a bonfire in the circle, and you can actually physicalize leaving things behind, and you can have the person who's leaving really think about what they've learned here and what they're not taking with them, what they're leaving here, and they can actually burn those in the fire pit. You want to think about how to move groups of people. Again, you've got to do it with some grace. Not, hey, okay, let's all out the mesa, kind of. You want to stand quietly. Okay, starting with Aaliyah. Everyone stand up. Don't move right now. Hang on. And I want you all maybe in pairs to pair up, and let's walk around this way and walk out. So there's crowd control in all of this too. It's a production again. If you look at it that way, you've got to figure out how you're going to move people. So it takes forethought. Okay, well that won't work because then we'll be in the mesa and we want to come back to the pavilion, and how do we move? So it takes it takes some thinking through. Okay, you can find at again Michael's, any bead stores, anywhere. You can either get big necklaces like this, or you can actually get beads. And this necklace I've used, I've taken a couple beads off of it. I've taken a bead off of it and just put it on a leather shoestring, and they're just a buck, no big deal. Or even just a nice piece of thread or a nice piece of wire or something. But you can use, if you look at everything that you have, and I've just, I accumulate kind of junk and think, okay, that'd be cool. I've hung on to this necklace forever because I thought, okay, this is good. I can use this in some ceremonies and some nice things to give to people. Got to remember that, in order to keep it to yourself, you got to give it away. I mean, nature has everything. If you walk around on this property, there's kind of cool stuff. I've found things over the years that I've picked up and kept and have been really nice in some way or another to work into a ceremony. So you take a look at it and figure, yeah, even a small piece of tree limb with some ribbon tied around it, or a piece of rock that you found here that everybody touched, a candle that we gave someone that everybody touched, that the things that were said before the person got the candle were really heartfelt, makes a huge, huge, huge difference. If you're looking at acknowledging someone, or looking at a holiday, or looking at something for community circle, this is an anniversary of Mary's father's death. Shauna has 17 years at Amity today. Josie has her 20-year clean anniversary. Tomorrow, yep, okay. The 17th was was the day Fernando died, okay. So just in the room, those few quick things, there's always something to acknowledge in community circle, not just the graduations and not just the movement. And we've gotten a little lax these days too. Community circles there's some lodge movement, and there's a few people that are kind of going into continuance or transitioning out, and that's kind of it. And we've got to really take a look at it. Today, actually, there's always something happening in the world during the week in community circles. So I'm going to ask people to really look at that. This can be a really fun project for students to research and figure out. Today is Muharram, okay? Muharram is the first month of the Islamic calendar. It's one of the 4 months of the year in which fighting is actually prohibited. That's kind of a big deal. It's today. Since the Islamic calendar is lunar, Muharram moves from year to year when completed with the Gregorian calendar. Muharram is so called because it was unlawful to fight during this month. The word is derived from the word haram, meaning forbidden. Okay? It is held to be the most sacred of all months in the Islamic calendar, excluding Ramadan, which is the most sacred. So that, we were just, Pamela's Daytimer, for some reason, had the, in the little calendar, it says Martin Luther King Day, and it has all the days. It had this Muharram. So we looked it up, just Googled it, and wow, that's a pretty cool day. So if you take a look at that too, every week there is something going on in the world. There's somebody's birthday, there's an anniversary of someone's passing, there's a clean anniversary, there's a wealth of things that you can do. And I think that it will add a lot in terms of the community, okay? What you want to see happen is if we get really good at this collectively, it will take on a life of its own, and the students will actually start doing some of this for each other, which is really great. And I've seen that happen a lot of times. You know, that's when we're doing a good job, when that starts to happen and people run up and say, oh, I want to be involved in community circle. I have something I want to do. And it's totally unplanned. I'm like, really? Okay, great. And they're usually pretty terrific.